Jake Paul invites Nate Diaz to join his United Fighters Association with Anderson Silva. Frankie Edgar plans to retire after UFC 281. Also, Mike Perry is targeting a UFC return, and Cody Garbrandt is demanding a Trilogy fight with TJ Dillashaw. All of this in your latest MMA news on your favorite MMA Quick Takes. Cody Garbrandt may have suffered 2 knockout losses at the hands of TJ Dillashaw, but he still feels that there is unfinished business between the two. After Dillashaw revealed that the injury that he was suffering during the Aljamain Sterling fight at UFC 280 was a recurring one that was bothering him through fight camp, Cody Garbrandt tore into his former friend after he claimed that he defeated him with that same injury years prior. He posted on Twitter, quote, "This dude is a bitch. 10 days before our first fight, the UFC flew me to Las Vegas to get epidural shots in my back because I couldn't even walk. I didn't make any excuses or cry about it after I lost this cheating bastard. Me versus TJ, book that shit. EPO can't save you anymore." Garbrandt then proceeded to engage in a back and forth with a fan online, debating the advantage that EPO gave Dillashaw. After the online user had made the statement, neither fight went long enough for his EPO use to give him the cardio advantage, Cody Garbrandt responded. He couldn't even walk to the corner on his own after the first round. Look up what EPO can do for you. Garbrandt then responded to another online user who said that he knew about the cheating before going into the fight. And that's why I asked for invasive testing during those camps, that I would even pay for it on my own, but they didn't even acknowledge it. Now, following his loss to Sterling, Dillashaw did reveal that he would be benched for at least a year as a result of his looming shoulder surgery. As for Garbrandt, he dropped down to the flyweight division back in 2021, but his new venture didn't pan out so well, losing to Kai Kara-France via first-round knockout. The loss moved his record to 1-5. I personally think a Dillashaw-Garbrandt matchup would make sense at this time for both fighters, especially now that Dillashaw has found himself in a little bit of hot water with the UFC. That being said, I have no idea what the UFC plans to do with Dillashaw. I'm not sure if they can find that trust that they once had in him before. Dillashaw and Garbrandt have had an ongoing feud for a long time, and I think that they could settle the score with one another with just one more fight in the UFC. Since parting ways with the UFC back in 2021, Mike Perry has won 3 straight fights, 1 under the Triad Combat banner and 2 in the BKFC ring. But Mike Perry still hopes to return to the UFC octagon, where his career and popularity took off. Of course, the big factor is still pay, and according to Platinum, who reportedly earned a $250,000 payday to fight for Triad Combat, BKFC is paying him double what he was making in the UFC. Perry left the UFC after back-to-back losses to Daniel Rodriguez and Tim Means, losing 4 of his last 5 fights overall with the promotion. Nonetheless, UFC fight fans always flock to see Mike Perry regardless of win, loss, or draw in the UFC. Given this, I honestly think Mike Perry coming back to the UFC would be great, but I don't think Dana White's going to give him much of a pay increase to match what BKFC was giving him. Dana White has been putting up a fight with athletes for a while now when it comes to fighter pay. If he decides to give Mike Perry that spot back in the UFC, it's going to be on his terms and not Mike Perry's. Would you guys like to see Mike Perry come back to the UFC? Let me know in the comment section below. Next, Frankie Edgar reveals his decisions on why he's choosing to retire after UFC 281. Frankie Edgar knows that he could continue fighting beyond UFC 281, but he has revealed that November 12th will be the last time that he fights in mixed martial arts. According to Edgar, there was no singular moment that led to this decision, but rather a multitude of factors. He told MMA Fighting, quote, "It's a lot of things, I would think. Kind of the way my fights have been going as of late led to that as well. My body, I am getting older. I feel great. In camp, I'm such a strong-minded person that I've always had great camps. I always feel good, but the body takes its toll throughout the years, and I just want to move on and see what's next. I know I can't fight forever. I could definitely string it on a couple more years probably, but I know I'll never move on to what's the next chapter in my life. I think now I'm being selfish when I'm still trying to chase this, and I've got a family and kids that want to have goals of their own. They want me around and probably want me to be able to speak good and have my wits about me. Now is probably the best time." Edgar's last 2 fights ended in violent knockouts, but he was also facing 2 of the best bantamweights in the sport in Chito Vera and Corey Sandhagen. While he's still healthy and suffering no severe injuries, he knows that he is gambling against time by continuing to absorb damage in each and every fight. Concerns over potential brain damage in combat sports should be something that every fighter thinks about, and Edgar says that even as good as he feels right now, it was impossible to ignore. Edgar has also witnessed the horror stories in boxing and mixed martial arts when fighters just don't know when to quit. Announcing that he would retire before facing Chris Gutierrez also made Edgar fully commit to the idea. Edgar would approach his retirement with plans to coach and open up a new gym, and maybe even dabble into acting. We wish you the best of luck, Frankie Edgar. It sucks that we can't see more of you, but we know you're doing this for all the right reasons. Hopefully retirement treats you well. Lastly, hours after calling out the UFC legend, Jake Paul extended an olive branch to Nate Diaz. Paul told Diaz on social media that the door is open to join the fighters union that he pledged to launch with Anderson Silva. He said, quote, "Oh Nathan, coming into my dressing room before my fight, throwing drinks like a pussy, will settle this if you ever get out of your UFC contract. Until then, let's change the game. I got big plans. I invite you to join Anderson and I to launch the United Fighters Association." In? Based on what unfolded on Saturday night, Diaz may not be all that keen on that idea. Videos of a shouting match between Diaz's and Paul's entourage surfaced online. Following his unanimous decision win over Silva, Paul also called Diaz a bitch and challenged him to a fight. At the end of the day, I think we're going to see a lot of Jake Paul, Nate Diaz back and forth. Based on the comments that I saw in the last Jake Paul Quick Takes video, I noticed a lot of animosity in Jake Paul's direction for calling out fighters that were past their prime, arguably too old to be fighting him, or had no place in boxing whatsoever. I have to be honest, if Jake Paul decides to call out Nate Diaz at this point in his career, I'm a little concerned as to what kind of backlash he would receive. Nate Diaz is a pretty decent boxer, but one could argue that even he is not at the most pivotal point in his career anymore. Regardless, I'm pretty interested to see what stems from this. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you even care about the Jake Paul, Nate Diaz beef that's going on? I always love to hear you guys' opinions on these topics. I'll do my best to respond to every single one. Make sure you guys like this video and hit subscribe and that notification bell so you can stay up to date on all of our live streams and uploads. This is the latest MMA news and your favorite MMA Quick Takes.